Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today's Wednesday, August 27, 2025, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The thug-in-chief continues to do what he does, now taking control of Union Station, moving aside Amtrak, threatening to be a dictator, threatening to send the National Guard to Chicago, New York, and other places, attacking a black woman who's the first one on the Federal Reserve Board. So I'm quite sure California Congresswoman Maxine Waters has a whole lot to say about the twice-impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald the Con Trump. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson makes it clear that Donald Trump and his dictatorship is not welcome in the Windy City. We'll show you what he had to say, and he will also talk to him. Those idiots in the White House are telling the world they are taking over Union Station, as I said. Y'all, it's already under federal control. We'll talk to a D.C. council member about the real reason MAGA is attacking Washington, D.C. In Fulton County, Republicans are trying to force the Fulton County commissioners to put 2020 election deniers on the county elections board. One county commissioner says he will go to jail to keep those idiots off of the board. Oh, it's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. On the Black Star Network, let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. Rolling with
we tried to tell you. We spent more than a year trying to tell you that if Donald Trump, the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon, was allowed back in the Oval Office, there would be no bottom. He would be a dictator. He would be a person who would lead with no morals, no values, no principles, no ethics, no integrity, no credibility, no honor, and no decency. And that is exactly what he is doing. He cannot stand black people. He is anti-black. He is a white nationalist. He is a white supremacist. And he's attacking the first black woman to serve on the Federal Reserve, Governor Lisa Cook. Yes, this man has no shame, and Republicans are going right along with it. Last time we had our next guest, she said, we have to do everything we can to fight back. And I'm sure nothing has changed. Joining us right now is California Congresswoman Maxine Waters by phone. Congresswoman, glad to have you here.
Thank you so much, Roland. Appreciate you so much. So much going on. You know, Trump has literally determined that he can get away with so much because the power of the presidency is so awesome. The Constitution does not list hundreds of things that he cannot do. And so he's doing everything that he ever thought he wanted to do. He's ruthless, and he's using his power to literally undermine, override, show all of his racist tendencies up front, right in your face. And so you mentioned Lisa Cook. Yes, a brilliant woman, one of the board of governors. He simply told her to resign. She told him to go to hell. She wasn't resigning. I love it. She said, you're going to have to see me in court because I am not going to resign. He says, I'm going to fire you. She said, call your best shot because I know what the Constitution says, and I know what I'm entitled to as a member of the board of the Federal Reserve. And so she's standing up. But look what he has done. He has beaten back the universities. Columbia has paid him millions of dollars. Brown University, even Harvard now. He's threatening their research money, and they're in negotiations with him. He's going after the private sector with law firms, telling them who they can represent, who they can't represent. And so when you talk about dictatorship, this is exactly what he wants. He really loves Putin and Kim Jong-un and the way that they run their governments. And that's what he wants to do. And he's moving ahead with it. And I want you to know that in spite of the protests that many of us involved in, I've been in 11 protests on the street. Everywhere that I go, I've been helping people to understand the danger of this low-down, dirty, ornery, disrespectful human being. And so here he is now talking about the Smithsonian. And he's talking about slavery wasn't so bad. Well, you know, I don't see him going into any Jewish museum telling them that somehow they are not to be concerned about anti-Semitism. But why does he think he can get away with blacks? I don't want him touching the African Museum. I don't want him threatening to take out items that he does not like, he does not want. I mean, this is horrible. This is terrible. We know he's the commander-in-chief. We know that he can federalize, the Washington police. We know he can call out the National Guard and the Army. So I don't want our young people to try to face off with them and get killed. But what I want us to do is say to him, you go take care of your pedophile friends. You go tell us why you are protecting Epstein. You tell us why it has been said that your name is in all of the records. And so if we keep Epstein in his face the way some of the Republicans are doing, that's what he is trying to divert people from as he does all this dirty work. I want Washington, D.C. to do nothing but make thousands of signs all saying Epstein is your pedophile friend. what were you guys doing with young girls? Epstein and you forever not only having Maxwell bring young girls to you, there are young girls who still have a story to tell. Let's keep Epstein on him because that's what he's trying to avoid. And that's what some of the Republicans are really holding him to his word. And so he thinks that he can divert, he can get us, get turn the white people on us even more with his racist self and divert all of this attention. But if we're smart enough, every sign, everywhere he goes, you and Epstein and the pedophiles that you are. I mean, let's keep that in his face because this is what he wants to run from. This is what he wants to hide. He wants to get rid of. But, if we're smart, we will join with those few Republicans that are saying you promised us that you were going to unveil this information. I'm coming to Washington. I want to talk with the mayor about let's make signs. Let's everybody make our pedophile signs. When he shows up to African Museum, let's stick Epstein in his face. Let's not him let him get away. And this is what's going to bring him down.
Well, check this out. I mean, you had this Israeli cyber official suspected of pedophilia. This was a federal investigation, and Trump acquiesced to Netanyahu and allowed this man to leave the country. They love some pedophiles.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we got to wrap it around his neck. Yes, they do. And he wants it to go away. He wants to divert the American public from it. But we can't let him do that. Let's rub it in. We got enough votes to bring it up on the floor, Democrats and Republicans. We got enough votes to bring it up. Johnson let us out early because he was stopping it. But they got to deal with us when we come back. And on the streets of Washington, I want everybody to have a sign, talking about Epstein and Trump and the pedophiles. Okay?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. He's throwing everything up against the wall to talk about that. I mean, you name it, he's trying to do it because this was hurting him. And he personally called a bunch of conservative podcasts, radio show hosts, TV hosts, telling them, hey, stop bringing this up, stop talking about it. And that shows you right there how weak and impotent they are.
Oh, they're very weak. And so many, for some reason, are afraid of him. But, what we have been taught, by our forefathers and foremothers, that we have to be in the struggle and we have to be in the fight. We don't get intimidated. You know what I'm saying? I've been talking with some older people, and they said, we're going on the street. All I don't want is our people to get shot and killed by some of these Army people that he's bringing in or the National Guard that he's arming. I just don't want that to happen. But we can get him. We can get him if we don't let him get away from Epstein.
Well, there's no doubt that what Trump wants, he wants a clash in the streets. He wants that. I was talking to talking to Father Michael Flager yesterday in Chicago, and I said, this is where he must be met with mass nonviolence. I said, imagine the signs you're talking about. Imagine if 500 to 1,000 Christians are lining the streets, holding their Bible, calling them out, and challenging them. But again, we know exactly what he wants because he wants to declare martial law. That's what he wants to do.
That's what he wants. He wants to declare martial law. They want to have curfews, and little black boys on the street will get killed. They'll kill them. They'll shoot them.
Yeah.
In fact,
that was a U.S. Senate hearing, and Elise Slotnick was questioning. She was questioning Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and in that particular hearing, she said that Donald Trump his previous Secretary of Defense demanded that protesters, Black Lives Matter protesters, be shot in the leg. And so in the hearing, she was demanding to know if Pete Hegseth had given the order to do the same, and he danced around it. He got indignant, but he never said he did not. I'm going to pull it up in a second, but again, that's what we're dealing with here. And so we know exactly what he is trying to do. We know what he is trying to do. In fact, this was Mark Esper. This was Mark, and then Hegseth tried to say, oh, you can't believe everything you read in the book. Well, this is Mark Esper, who was Trump's first, he was Secretary of Defense in his first term. He said this to 60 Minutes.
He called Mike Pence an effing loser?
He didn't call him directly, but he was looking at him when he was saying it. And it really caught my attention. And I thought, we're at a different spot now. He's going to finally give a direct order to deploy paratroopers into the streets of Washington, D.C., and I'm thinking with weapons and bayonets. And this would be horrible.
What specifically was he suggesting that the U.S. military should do to these protesters?
He says, can't you just shoot them? Just shoot them in the legs or something. And he's suggesting that that's what we should do, that we should bring in the troops and shoot the protesters.
The commander-in-chief was suggesting that the U.S. military shoot protesters.
Yes, in the streets of our nation's capital. That's right. Shocking.
We have seen in other countries a government use their military to shoot protesters. Right. What kind of governments are those?
Well, those are banana republics, right, or authoritarian regimes. We all remember Tiananmen Square, right, in China.
Then that was first time. And here's the deal, Congresswoman. Hegseth is wiping out numerous generals, numerous leaders. They are gutting the Pentagon. They want to put in 100% loyalists. So if Trump says shoot them, those thugs will say they will give the order to shoot them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm worried because the young people, they want to do something, and they get very angered by the way that they're being treated. And so some of them, start talking loud, and they're going to be met with guns, and I do not want them to be shot, and that's why I want to fight. I want to fight him with Epstein. I want to fight him and keep the attention on what some of the Republicans are using also to try and get the information. He is absolutely brazen in the way that he's trying to avoid doing what he promised he was going to do to his own caucus about revealing what's in those Epstein files. So he'll be shocked if he walks into a protest and all the signs said, you and Epstein, you are pedophile lovers. What are you going to do about, why did you lie about Epstein? Why are you protecting Epstein? Why is it you like a pedophile? You told us that you did. When you said, oh, I like girls and he likes them really young. What the hell? You think you're going to get away with saying that publicly and we not know what that means? And this business of interviewing Maxwell in the prison and then sending her to a minimum security prison, a cushy prison after the interview, lets us know a deal is being cut. And she's trying to rewrite history. She's a filthy, dirty, low-down pedophile that was soliciting young girls as early as 13 years old. And now she's cutting a deal. And Trump, if we let him get away with it, we'll pardon her. That's where they're headed. He's dirty, low down, filthy.
And you're right. These people have said that at the end of the day, that how do you cut this deal? How do you cut this deal with someone allowing her out? Again, what they have done with Ghislaine Maxwell, she was absolutely in cahoots with Jeffrey Epstein every step of the way. And Donald Trump sent a high-ranking Department of Justice official, get her testimony.
Second in command, yes.
Get her testimony. And many of the victims have said the woman is flat out lying. She is lying, and Republicans are accepting her lies as if it was the truth.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, she has already been convicted because all of the evidence has been proven of what she has done in the solicitation and the violation of young girls. And so now they're going to rewrite history in front of us and take us for being damn fools that they're going to get away with not only doing an interview and then starting the deal by sending her to a cushion minimum location and leading to a pardon. She is saying everything she needs to say. Oh, she's never seen the president in any compromising position. She's never, well, the lies are being constructed and they are working on the plan to pardon her. That's exactly what they're doing.
Absolutely. When does Congress return back from this Mike Johnson scared to vote on Epstein's summer break?
We'll be back the second week in September.
And to your point, I really do hope that Democrat leadership do the exact same thing, because you have Thomas Massey on that side who wanted to put it on the record that the moment they come back, they should say, we ain't voting on nothing, moving nothing, discussing nothing until we deal with Epstein. And then force Mike Johnson to run. What is he going to do? Say, go away from September, and if he does that, you come back in October and you put it on the table again in November, in December, in January.
Well, what I'm going for is exactly what you're saying. Damn this business as usual stuff. I can't do business as usual. We need to shut this damn place down if you can't deal with Epstein. You can't run over this like this. We have people from our communities that's been in jail for marijuana. We've got people who've been in jail for stealing a loaf of bread. And here we have these crooks and these criminals. You pardon everybody from January 6th. Now you're about to pardon this pedophile. What the hell country is this? What the hell country is this?
Absolutely.
We got to break it. We got to break it. But it's going to take something out of the ordinary to break it. We can't go along in our committees testifying about shit that don't nobody care about. We got to say we ain't doing nothing. Break this stuff up until we get Epstein and everything that he has done before somebody killed him in prison.
Absolutely. Well, we've been covering this every single day. We're not backing down from this. We're exposing and trying to enlighten, inform, educate our people every single day because too many of us have been sitting on the sidelines, line dancing, having fun, and I'm all for that. I believe in having fun. But the bottom line is this here, the future of Black America, the future of America is at stake. And these thugs, we know exactly what they want to do. He wants to be a dictator. He wants to crush dissent. This illegal executive order banning the burning of flags is pathetic when the Supreme Court has already ruled on that. And I've been saying this, that he wants to defund Black America. He wants to destroy the civil rights, the political, the economic, the educational, and health infrastructure of Black America. That is his agenda.
He got the nerve to be in our face telling us slavery wasn't so bad. Go to Melania's country, Slovenia, and tell them what to do. Go there and tell them what to do. Don't come over here telling us that our history is meaningless, that it doesn't mean anything, and we ought to shut up. I am furious.
Well, we're every step of the way, Congresswoman. As you already know, you're welcome to the show anytime, so just let us know, and we're here 5 days a week.
Thank you so much. I love you. Keep it up. You're our talking drum. Keep it up.
And you just had a birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you so very much. I'm still with it. All right.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Okay, bye-bye.
Folks, that was California Congresswoman Maxine Waters, still on the wall, fighting every single day. Going to go to a break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Coming soon to the Black Star Network.
I have name recognition, but I tour more than any rapper. And it's a lot of overseas stuff. And it's like I'm going all over I've been to 80 countries in my lifetime. And sometimes I'll do interviews with people and they be like, so what you been doing? Like, what you been doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just came back from Belgium and Brazil and South Africa. What you been doing?
Right.
This week on the other side of change,
300,000 Black women being pushed out of the workforce.
This is shocking yet unsurprising.
So what happens when a bunch of Black mothers lose their federal job? Their kids are not being fed, their kids are not being taken care of, but that trickles down to the entire community structure, which may be built on the backs of Black mothers and Black women more broadly.
Tune in on The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
What's up, y'all? This is Wendell Haskins, a.k.a. Win Hogan at the Original T Golf Classic. And you know I watch Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, my panel, Rebecca Carruthers, President and CEO of Fair Election Center out of D.C., Dr. Larry J. Walker, Associate Professor, University of Central Florida out of Orlando, Zabora G., DEIA Consultant, Employment Specialist out of Houston. I will start with you, Rebecca. Listen, it is abundantly clear what we're seeing, and people need to understand they want to shut it all down. They do not want fair elections. Trump is talking about signing executive order, getting rid of absentee balloting, early voting, let's move to paper, which is stupid because he literally has no jurisdiction whatsoever when it comes to state elections. So that's just all nonsense. And again, and it's one after another. And really what this is designed, Rebecca, it is designed to be so much crap that you numb the audience. And we saw this the last time when we saw it. And the problem is mainstream white media are grossly unprepared for it. They are still trying to play this nice, cute game when they don't know how to respond. And what they've done is they've capitulated. ABC firing Terry Moran, CNN essentially firing Jim Acosta, MSNBC firing Joy Ann Reid. Cutting deals, Paramount, CBS cutting a deal with Trump in order to get their merger approved. Disney cutting him a check. NBC cutting him a check. When media buckles, when media bends over, when media bows down, then you do not have the fourth estate there to hold power accountable. You on mute? All right.
Sorry about that, Roland. You just said a lot. So when people think about the fourth estate and why it's so important, it's because when you think about the checks and balances in this country, when you think about how Congress is supposed to check the executive, check the president, when you think about the courts are supposed to check the president and check Congress, when that's not happening, then what we have left is for the media to actually do the fact checking, for media to provide reliable and accurate information to the masses so people understand what's happening. Something that you mentioned with the vote by mail thing that Trump tried to say last week is when the Ukrainian president was visiting in the White House last week. Trump also said, hey, you know what? Maybe we could suspend elections if there's an emergency, if we're at war. And that's something the media absolutely has to call out. If you listen to Eisenhower, according to Eisenhower, we went into a militarized industrial complex, which means the United States has been at war for 80, 90 years, nonstop virtually, but we still have elections. So for Trump to say, oh, maybe an emergency will happen and we could suspend elections, something that I want to remind the viewers and remind Americans is that during the Civil War, when literally millions of soldiers were dying on fields, when electors had to ride by horseback and or by train to get to Washington to cast their votes in the middle of a civil war, we still had elections. When we had World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam War, when we had unrest during the Civil Rights Movement, we still had elections. When we had the Bay of Pigs incident, where there was the possibility of a nuclear war popping off at any moment, there were still elections that happened that year. There were still state and local elections. And so what we have to do is stop normalizing the crap that the president is saying, especially when it comes to free and fair elections. This is not normal. We should not be accepting these things.
Larry?
Yeah, this is all a very troubling time to be an American. But you're right in terms of the media, mainstream media, in terms of their responsibility that they haven't adhered to in terms of making sure you hold federal, state, and local officials, hold them responsible for not only their rhetoric but also their actions. It will only be one thing. Obviously, we deal with a lot of this racist rhetoric, but we're seeing it from executive orders and various other decisions he's making that impacts Secretary of State and DOJ and the DOE and all these other various entities. And who's paying the price for that? We see the Black community is paying the price for that. We've talked about on your show a lot, the several hundred thousand, more than 300,000 Black women have lost their jobs. But the media has a responsibility, as Rebecca just talked about, to focus on some of the things that they're saying. Listen, it's become normalized, and many of these large media outlets are completely ignoring some of the troubling things they're saying. The other thing is, Roland, the problem with Americans is they don't really have context as it relates to authoritarianism as it relates to world history. And the problem, and if you look at what's happening, this is literally the playbook for everything authoritarians have done for more than the last century throughout the world. But once again, the country's ill-prepared because Americans don't understand world history. Everything is doing, attacking higher education, using U.S. military, going after, the media and various other entities that are historically have kept, make sure that, politicians who gain too much power held responsible. So they're not doing that. And so he's running wild with whatever he wants to do and pushing, every politician that thinks that they're going to vote against something in the House or Senate. He threatens them, and they just kind of give up and say, well, the president's talked to me, and we have some kind of compromise. But the bottom line is we need people to stand steadfast and fight, because you don't fight now, we're all going to pay over the next several years.
Zipporah, I really want people to listen to what Congresswoman Maxine Waters said. And I think back to the Black Freedom Movement and how precise Dr. King and Andrew Young and Hosea Williams and Dorothy Cotton, how precise those leaders were, Diane Nash, James Bevel, because they understood, again, I keep going back to this, King being the protagonist said I need an antagonist, but he also understood the safety of the people. There's that tremendous scene in the movie Selma, where the masses, after the vicious beating on Bloody Sunday, and the masses are on that bridge, and King sees those troopers, and he then takes a knee and prays and turns around. And Snick, James Foreman, was angry and upset, and the other people were upset. And King said, I was about to lead our people into a slaughter. What we have to recognize, Donald Trump is a cannibal. He wants to eat people. He is itching. He is itching for people to stand before troops and yell and scream and throw rocks and throw bottles, because then he'll say, national emergency. And now it's, yes, as Rebecca said, I can suspend the election. I can do whatever I want. So our protest, our response can't be muted. We must be extremely careful with how we respond so we don't give that thug exactly what he's looking for.
Yeah, definitely. We have to be very clear that we are witnessing a bully at the playground. He's not running this country on policy. And like Maxine Waters said, this is not business as usual. And we have to attack this strategically. We have to do this in an organized manner. And we have to really come together, and our little squabbles and arguments that are amongst ourselves isn't important at this time. This is about us being unified. This is about us supporting the platforms like your platform and supporting our leaders of right now. But at the same time, making sure that we are protecting our children. In DC and him deploying all of this National Guard to these places with these vulnerable populations. Like, I think of the homeless that are in Union Station, and you see this extra presence of police surroundings and government forces, but they're in places where there's no crime in those areas, or there's limited crime in those areas. So, you know, it's a big show, and it seems that he's setting up for something bigger by just creating these little breadcrumbs that give him a way to be able to enact martial law if he really needs it right now. And he's doing it at the extent and at the expense of us, of Black people, of Black women, of Black children. You know, all of these situations that are happening in America right now, we've been through them before. We saw how to handle them. And just like he has a playbook from the last time he was in the White House, we have to go to the things that we know work. We know that the Black church is strong. We know that when we have our own newspapers and our own media outlets, we're going to be strong. We see what our dollar has done to Target. And if we continue on a path where we're having a path of least resistance, but we're still resisting in a smart manner, I think that it's going to be a truth teller. You know, America's in a very bad place, and racism has been at the front of all of our journeys since before the civil rights, since the slave trades. So this is where we are, and we just have to do something different. We can't treat this like this is normal or like it's not important. And we have to educate people around us, because they're not educated. They don't understand it. And some people understand it and just feel defeated because it's so much thrown at us every day. So I think that, you know, we have to keep the fight and don't give up, and listen and take the lead of our leaders that are still here with us.
Absolutely. And I think what we have to, what we also have to recognize, and I'm about to bring in D.C. at large Councilmember Robert White Jr. into this. This is Jay Carey. This was yesterday. This is a veteran. This is a veteran who stood in Lafayette Park, and after Trump issued his executive order, he burned the United States flag. Bring the audio up.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Nobody will enforce those illegal laws that president tries to make.
Do me a favor, I got a fuse right now.
A violation of his First Amendment right. Yep, I'm being detained because I expressed my First Amendment right to burn the United States flag in public. Not
Folks,
causing harm.
Now, you may say, okay, well, I don't understand what the big deal is. But, Councilman, here's why I think that's important. And we're seeing this. We are seeing members who served in uniform showing up and standing with people who are being attacked by ICE. We're seeing veterans who say, wait a minute, I fought for people to be able to protest the First Amendment. And so this is one of those moments where I think folk, as opposed to being a knee-jerk reaction, there are certain people we follow and stand behind who bring a level of credibility to the conversation that is hard for the right. What's the right going to say? Oh, the hell with those vets? Oh, please, by all means, do so. This is where we have to be very smart, very strategic, and understand the evil that we're facing and how we must properly respond.
You're 100% right, Roland. My message to people in D.C. every day is don't fight with aggression. We're not going to win that. You're going to play into their plan and their narrative. Folks need to take notes from the civil rights movement. We have to be organized. We have to be strategic. We have to be united because, as you all were saying before, people's rights are being violated every single day. Folks are living in fear. And the president has said where this is going. He is going to take the military, use them against our own people, not just in D.C., but across the country. So this is time that folks need to wake up.
Listen, y'all are in a very precarious place because Washington, D.C. is not a state. And the role and responsibility that the federal government has when it comes to approving budget, cutting things. And so it is not as easy for D.C. officials to respond like other states and other governors. Take, for instance, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy stands up, massive amount of lies, talking about Department of Transportation, taking direct control of Washington's Union Station. Amtrak, of course, is managing the nation's second busiest hub. But the mayor says, wait a minute, Union Station is already under the federal government control. Roll it.
The federal government owns Union Station, and I think that I don't know the details of what will happen if it's just about management. That I would consider that step one. If it's about what Union Station needs for its total transformation, that would be an amazing initiative for the federal government to take on. I have had a very early conversation when I visited the president during his most recent transition about Union Station and how that could represent a very significant and good investment for this region.
And Duffy then says, this is what's coming.
Look, Roland.
What can people expect the changes to be?
So first off, DOT owns Union Station, and we've had a lot of partners that we've subleased to or we've leased to. We're going to take it back, and we're going to drive out the homelessness. We're going to drive out the crime, and we are going to, I think, bring in more retailers. I think more customers. It'll be better revenue. And again, this is our capital city. It should be beautiful. Yeah. And the president wants a beautiful capital. I want a beautiful capital. And so this plan is going to make Union Station represent the president's vision of what America can and should look like.
I'm going to put this out here, Councilman. Let's just be perfectly clear what we're facing. And that is this here. And I saw Karl Rove on Fox. I saw a clip where he was talking about how Democrats are going to lose this crime argument. Let's be real clear. When we hear Republicans talk about attacking crime, what they're actually saying to white people is, we're going to get those black and brown people in line. That's what they're saying. And so when you start seeing polling data, how, all of a sudden it's resonating with the American people. No, it's resonating with white Americans, white conservative Americans, because we all know crime, hardcore on crime, has always been the go-to of conservatives to attack Democrats or progressives.
And unfortunately, we keep falling for it, Roland. So they're telling us exactly what they're doing. The president has put together guards from all over the country, brought them to D.C., done an executive order, said, I'm going to make a permanent branch of the Guard, and I'm going to send them anywhere in the country that I deem dangerous or protests that I think are out of control. That's authoritarian, right? But then the U.S. attorney for D.C. has said she's not going to prosecute anymore crimes, people carrying long guns or rifles in D.C. That's not our folks that carry that. That's these January 6ers. So the president is going to decriminalize carrying these kind of guns, and he's going to create a subset of the military here in D.C. ahead of the next election. Where do we think this is going? I mean, he's being incredibly clear about what's happening. They're going to be tough on crime, on petty crimes in black neighborhoods, but they're going to pardon the January 6 rioters, the insurrectionists who tried to overthrow democracy. This is absolutely crazy if we go along with any of it.
So what are you saying to residents as to, and business owners and homeowners, how they should respond?
I'm telling people organize, and I'm doing my part. I had a town hall on Monday just so people know what their rights are. There were 400 pissed off people in that town hall saying we are frustrated that our local police aren't protecting us. We are frustrated with the mayor and the council for not pushing back harder. And they want us to do more. So now I have a follow-up meeting on September 8th where we're going to talk about action and organization and strategy, because people in D.C. want to know, what can we do? And people outside of D.C., most of them know this isn't just D.C.'s fight. This is the nation's fight. So folks have got to get in now, because once this train moves, we're not going to be able to stop it.
I have to ask you this because it's being asked, where's Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton in all of this?
Look, I used to work for Congresswoman Norton, and thanks to her, we have a federal law passed in 2001 that already gives authority for us to partner with federal agencies without a federal takeover. And I don't leave the fight to anybody, so I'm spending every day on Capitol Hill. I met with 5 Senate offices today, 6 yesterday, about 20 last week. So we're all in this fight, and I'm going to do my piece, and I'm going to push everybody to do their part too.
All right. Congressman White, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Councilman White, I'm sorry. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Rebecca, I have to go. Look, we have to deal with it. Okay? Somebody was critical. David Hogg, I can't how you pronounce it, put a video out talking about the history of Congresswoman Holmes Norton, talking about her civil rights history, what she has meant, but how she's been basically MIA in all of this. And look, I always say, if you do good, I'll talk about you. If you do bad, I'll talk about you. In the day, I'll talk about you. And I'm sorry, this is not a moment where Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, who's 88 years old, is MIA. If you are unable, if you are the delegate of the District of Columbia, and if you are unable to be seen publicly, to be the face of the resistance, then it's time for you not to announce you're not running for re-election in 2026. It's time for you to resign now. And again, I have great respect for the Congresswoman, but there is no way in hell you can have someone who is totally missing. She is nowhere to be found. Okay, a statement was put out, but literally nowhere to be found. That is not what the people of the District of Columbia need right now.
So first, I don't listen to anything that David Hogg has to say. I don't take my advice for him. But to your point, I think your greater point here is, where is leadership? Does that include the Congresswoman? Absolutely. Does that include the mayor? Absolutely. Who today, the mayor said that she welcomes the increased federal law enforcement in the district, which is anti everything that residents of the district is currently saying, because people are scared to go out. People are scared to sit on the front stoop. People are scared in DC, and they're definitely looking for leadership. The other thing that I want to call out here is, for decades, there has been a push to make the District of Columbia the 51st state. And so one thing that I have to ask the Democrats, when you had the presidency, when you had the House, when you had the Senate, why was it not a priority to protect historically Black city, to make sure that the type of thing that we're seeing happening now, the type of authoritarianism that we're seeing, the takeover of the District of Columbia, where were you? Why didn't you do anything to prevent this? Why was this not passed? Why was this not considered? I understand that, I understand it's more than just Congress voting on this. I understand there's other procedures, but the Democrats, when they were in power, they could have at least started on this as well. So am I going to just put the blame on the Congresswoman? No. Am I going to just put the blame on the current mayor? No. But what I will say is that there is a vacuum of leadership, and right now there has to be strong leadership in the district right now.
So, Larry, I'm not putting the blame on anyone. What I am saying is, what's happening in Illinois? You see the governor, you see the mayor, you see members of Congress, you see county commissioners, you see aldermen, okay? Now, we know, let's just be real. The mayor of D.C., the police chief of D.C., city council members of D.C., They can't go off because the reality is, listen, we're sitting right now in front of Black Lives Matter Plaza. That's no longer Black Lives Matter Plaza because a Republican said, oh, if you do not tear up that monument, we are going to withhold $1 billion in funding. The city spent almost $700,000 to tear the street up. So the DC folks are dancing as much as they can because they know how vindictive and punitive these people are. But in this moment, DC needs its elected member of Congress, and she is MIA, Larry.
I've been thinking a lot about this, about leadership. And, you know, it was funny you mentioned Congresswoman Holmes Norton and Roland. You know, I worked on the Hill, had a chance to work at her office very closely, lived in D.C. for a number of years. But this is all hands on deck. This is an unprecedented challenge that Black people in America, specifically the D.C., for all the people that I know and care about who live in the city, and much broader in terms of what is D.C. is an example of what will happen in Chicago, Baltimore, you know, we can L.A., et cetera. And so we need transformational leadership right now, as it specifically as relates to the Black community. Traditional politics is not going to get it in this unconventional time. And so I think your point is an important one. You know, you can't be missing in a time where the district has not seen, and listen, you and I know, Roland, and their Republican administrations to certain degrees have took a look at or critiqued or even threatened, DC leaders. This has happened, but not to this extent where you have the National Guard at Union Station, perched in various neighborhoods throughout the city. If we don't have the necessary leaders, elected leaders who are visible on the boots on the ground and also coming up with concrete examples of what we need to do, then there's an important conversation need to have. And like I said, someone's worked very closely with the office, I have a great deal of respect for Congresswoman Holmes Norton. We have to have this conversation about like I said, her absence, and also larger about Black leaders and today in terms of being prepared to respond, as I said, to unconventional antics that are going to lead to more violence and aggression directed towards the Black community.
And the more, somebody has to say it. And listen, over the last year, a lot of people, let's be respectful. Let's understand her history, what she's meant. And a lot of people have done that. A lot of people have been respectful. There were a lot of people who feel she should not have run for re-election last year. And I'm sorry if you are unable to even be seen. I'm not saying you got to be out there waving a flag and waving a sign. She's not even present. She's not even standing next to the mayor. And somebody has to be willing to say, and somebody Black, and I don't want to hear any bullshit from anybody. Oh, this is an attack on Black women. This is an attack on Black leadership. We just had an 85-year-old Black woman on the show.
Yeah.
Congresswoman Maxine Waters. And I'm sorry. There are some things that you have to be able to do. And that is, and I say this all the time, there's a difference between somebody being present and having presence. The problem here is Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton. She's not present and she's not having a presence. I get behind the scenes, I get history, but this is a moment where people need to see and hear their leadership every single day. They need to see their leader going to churches and rallying pastors and making this the issue. They need to see their leader walking down the street with a bullhorn telling people to be respectful, but also don't get in trouble. They need to see it. I'm sorry. Again, I love her dearly. But right now, Delegate Holmes Norton is failing her constituents.
I think the bigger question to me is this is happening in more than just DC, right? I'm looking at Texas redistricting without having representation in certain places that have had representation for a long time. At what point do we say, are you holding this public service and holding this office or this position hostage? I think that it's time for us, respectfully, we respect everything that everyone has done before us. We have to, and we're standing on those shoulders. But at the same time, we are in need of leaders who are energetic, who understand the sense of urgency and understand what the community needs and are able to, like you said, just show up, just be there. We need to see that. We're already getting bombarded with so much information and families are scared, children are scared, and you're trying to navigate your life, but we don't have the leadership that's saying, okay, I've been here, I did my time, but at this point, what are we going to say about term limits and about succession planning and about just ending in a peaceful way that we can celebrate you for the work that you've done, but at the same time, make some space for young leaders, young Black leaders, young people of color that can stand up to what we're going to be dealing with 40 years from now. These things that Trump are doing and the decisions that he's making right now are going to impact us for 100 years from now. So we need leadership that reflects dealing with those things.
My last point on this here. I would rather someone retire gracefully than force people to force them out. And I'm sorry, the delegate should have retired and not run in 2024. She should not have. And what I will say right now, specifically to Black leadership across the country, if you are a state representative or a state senator or a member of Congress or a county commissioner or a city council member, an alderman, a DA, a judge, a clerk, if you are in public office and you cannot handle the duties of your job, if you cannot physically be there for the people in the way that you used to, it's time for you to go. It's time for you to step away. It's time for you to have the leadership to literally choose a successor, groom a successor, nurture a successor, and now say, it's time. Congressman Danny Davis announced his retirement, saying he's not going to run for re-election. And he said who he's going to be endorsing, a state rep in Chicago. Because it's time. Yeah. It's time. If you are being wheeled around the Capitol and you can barely move and you can barely talk and I'm going to say it, I'm sorry. And that goes for white people. That Strom Thurmond was driveling at the mouth. Who was the white guy in West Virginia? Name escapes me right now.
Byrd. Senator Byrd.
Yes. Robert Byrd, same thing. Damn, it's time to go. And let me be clear, somebody's 88 ain't somebody else's 88. Mm-hmm. This same thing came up dealing with Biden. I mean, you may be able to sit down and you still have your mind and you still see you can make calls. But here's what we have to recognize. The job of an elected official is also a physical job. It's a physical job. It's not a mental job. It's mental and physical. And so the physical part means, listen, Fetterman, he's way younger. He had a stroke. Oh, I'm missing my vacation with my family. Well, then resign. And you will have all the time in the world to spend with your wife and your children to go on vacation. We have to say this and see when black politicians, and first of all, any politician, okay, but I'm specifically talking to black politicians. When black politicians hold on, and they are sitting here withering on the vine, they're actually hurting black people. They're hurting black communities because actually they can't be fully effective in their job because they're not present. They're not present at committee hearings. They're not present at meeting with their constituents. They're not present at meeting with companies and others to try to bring them into the district or into the city or into the state. So sometimes as black people, we have to stop being so respectful of a person's ego and recognize that a person's ego can also be disrespectful to the voters. And I wouldn't want to have to give this commentary. I don't want to have to give it. But y'all know and I know there are a lot of black elected officials who need to go and retire into the sunset, who need to be loved and appreciated for what they did. But just like in sports, there's nothing worse than seeing an athlete who was beloved, who was amazing, who had a Hall of Famer career, just hanging on. Just hanging on, taking up a roster spot. Know when to hang it up. Know when to quit. And right now, Delegate Holmes Norton, you are not serving your constituents by staying in this position. I don't know the rules of D.C. when you could call a special election. It could be in this November. But this is a moment where we need every single one of our generals and sergeants and captains on the battlefield. And I'll end it with this. If this was an actual war, she would have been sent home because she would have been unable to fulfill the duties needed on the battlefield. Respectfully. Going to a break, we come back. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson joins us right here on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Make our contributions to Cash App. Use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. For the link, go to blackstarnetwork.com, RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Checks in money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo, RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Coming soon to the Black Star Network.
I have name recognition, but I tour more than any rapper. And it's a lot of overseas stuff. And it's like I'm going all over I've been to 80 countries in my lifetime. And sometimes I'll do interviews with people and they be like, so what you been doing? Like, what you been doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just came back from Belgium and Brazil and South Africa. What you been doing?
Right.
I'm Russell L. Honoré, Lieutenant General, United States Army, retired, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Donald Trump has no respect for black people. He has no respect for black leadership. He is consistently targeting black leadership. Remember 2020 when he complained about losing, the election was rigged? There were 4 cities he kept bringing up: Atlanta, Philadelphia, Detroit, and Milwaukee. What do those 4 cities have in common? Black people. Donald Trump is always talking about Chicago. Chicago. He has one of his, Trump Towers hotels in Chicago. But let's be clear, he doesn't give a damn about Chicago. He uses Chicago as a whipping boy for whatever he wants to do. And that's what the right does. Talk to any white conservative or even the help like Philip from Indiana. Oh, by the way, that Negro was appointed executive director of the Civil Rights Commission in Indiana. So my producer sent me the Facebook link, and I responded saying, oh, you got a witness protection, huh? See, they love talking about Chicago. They love bringing up Chicago. They love to it's always Chicago. And I told y'all the story when I was at one of those meetings with Trump with TV anchors, and he was like, well, Ron was in my office, and he told me to deal with crime in Chicago. We got to deal with economics and poverty and education. He was like, no, Ron, you're not getting this right. And I was like, no, actually, he is right. Now, Rahm Emanuel ain't there. Brandon Johnson is now the mayor, and he's been saying the exact same thing. And if you actually talk to any police chief, and I've actually asked the question to many of them, they will tell you that more cops on the street does not equate to a drop in crime. Mayor Johnson joins us right now. Mayor, glad to be with you right now. Glad to have you here. You were on MSNBC, and Joe Scarborough was asking you over and over and over again, oh, Mayor, I agree with you about all the other different things, but wouldn't it be helpful to have 5,000 cops on the street? And I saw that clip because I don't watch that show. It's been 10 years since they had me on because I was just way too mouthy for them. That's what happens when you're an uppity Negro to them. And the thing is, I saw the clip and I said, well, hell, I'm sure the mayor would say, can I have 5,000 jobs for youth? Can I have 5,000 new affordable housing units? And see, we want to talk about more cops, more cops, more cops. But even cops will tell you that does not fix the crime issue, Mayor.
No, you're absolutely right, Roland, and thanks for having me back. And appreciate, the consciousness that you are elevating across this country. And what we've said repeatedly, that policing alone is not going to drive safe and affordable cities. And I've expressed this on multiple occasions. In the 90s, when I was in high school, where the murder rate was as high as 900 and sometimes above 900. We had 2,000 to 3,000 more police officers at that time. And so there's no correlation between the number of police officers and violence. But what we do know, there is a direct correlation between poverty and trauma and violence. And, we have a president that has declared war on poor people. And as you know so well, and you eloquently express all the time, that's one of the 3 evils that Dr. King provided a warning to this country, that if we don't address those 3 evils, racism, of course, being one of them, militarism, of course, being one of them, and then poverty, right? And so what I've done in the city of Chicago is I've worked hard to make sure that the neighborhoods that have been most impacted by violence, that are also the same neighborhoods where schools have been closed, where the lack of access to health care and good paying jobs. And so what did I do when I took office? One, we made sure that we revamped our detectives division, where we promoted 200 more detectives to make sure that we're actually solving violence in Chicago. One of the things that I've heard repeatedly that's quite frustrating for families, it's one thing to lose your loved one to violence or to end up being having violent experiences. It's another thing when you don't solve the crime. And so because we revamped our entire detectives division, we have seen a clearance rate of 76%, almost 77%, the highest it's ever been in a decade. But where we really put our investments towards was youth employment, 31,119 summer jobs. I live on the west side of Chicago in Austin. I know you're familiar with Chicago and the neighborhoods here. In Austin, one of the tougher neighborhoods because of disinvestment, we saw some of the greatest declines in Austin, but we also saw the highest proportion of young people with summer youth jobs, right? So we've increased that by almost 50%, but we've also expanded mental and behavioral health care services, reopened 3 mental health clinics, the first mayor since Mayor Harold Washington to invest in mental health clinics, but we've also have expanded mental health services.
Wait. You said the first mayor since Harold Washington. Harold Washington died in 1987.
That's correct.
That's 38. It's 38 years ago.
Yeah. Now we're talking about severe disinvestment. When Mayor Harold Washington died, there were 19 mental health clinics. When I took office, there were barely 6. And so we've also expanded mental and behavioral health care services around the city so that when people are experiencing mental health crises, you have a paid professional, behavioral health professional that shows up to those crises and not a police officer. And that frees up our law enforcement to respond to the other critical needs. But there was something else that we did. We are stabilizing our communities by repopulating these neighborhoods with affordable units. We're on pace to build nearly 10,000. We're focusing, by the end of my first term, we're focusing on the west and south sides of Chicago where, as I've called it, the Negro Removal Act has been in full effect, where Black folks have been pushed out of the very communities that, have historically been stabilizing neighborhoods for the working class, right? And so here's what we've experienced as a result of that: a 32% reduction in homicides, almost 40% reduction in shootings and shooting victims, 35% reduction in robberies, our carjackings, that has declined significantly. Now, look, the last thing that I'll say on this, we have a lot of work to do. Don't misunderstand me, but we are moving in the right direction as we build safe and affordable communities across Chicago. And the way we're doing that is by investing in people. So policing and the critical investments that ultimately get at the root causes of violence, that's how we've been able to experience this progress in my first 2 years in office.
I saw the news conference the other day with Governor Pritzker. You spoke, Father Flager, and others as well. And Trump's desire to send the National Guard is like, I wish they would call, And what's interesting is, and this is why I really despise these national media outlets. And in fact, I want to play this. You keep getting, guys, get this queued up. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You got some MAGA folk in the media in Chicago who keeps trying to antagonize you, and they throw these questions out, and you try your best not to have to deal with their nonsense. I saw this earlier today. Go ahead and play it, and I want to talk about it. Go.
I'm wondering if you have any concerns that all of this pushback against Trump, knowing how he responds to that, if it might kind of be like poking the bear, if you will, and could make things worse and could actually provoke him to follow through with this talk about sending in the National Guard when yesterday he seemed to waffle. Could this make things worse, all this pushback?
Standing in unity is actually what's necessary when you're fighting against tyranny. I mean, could you imagine if as a descendant of slaves, if my ancestors would have had that same rationale? Let's not fight against the Confederacy. Let's just try to get along, and then maybe one day they'll give us our freedom. Nowhere in the history of America or the world where marginalized people have sat silent and idle, and they've been able to actually achieve justice and liberation. The fact that you have a unified front in Chicago, where we are rejecting the occupation by the military of our cities, that's actually fighting for our democracy. That's what's required in this moment. Leading in this moment takes a great deal of courage, but we stand on the shoulders of so many people that have come before us. We have seen these type of tyrannical acts before. One thing that we know for sure, when we fight back against tyranny, the people united will always prevail. Mayor, basically they're like, well, Mayor, why don't you just give up? Why don't you just
Why don't you just shut up, be quiet, and take it? That's literally what they're asking you to do, as if you were not elected by the people, as if the alderman, at least as it's the governor. That's what's crazy. Oh, just let the wannabe dictator be a dictator and shh. You just need to be quiet.
You know, Roland, first of all, I wish I could just have you around when these, asinine questions are put before me, because, look, we have to maintain a certain level of decorum, even if others don't play by those same rules. But one thing that I know for sure, that in every instance, when the people have spoken with conviction and truth and have come together to display that collective power, we are always better off having fought back against, these, again, as I described them, the tyrannical reign of this administration. And here's the thing, man, we are part of a rich history in this country. And because you know Chicago so well, when Dr. King, came to the city of Chicago, he set up his family on the west side in North Lawndale, fighting for fair housing, right? And something that he did experience here in Chicago was something that he said he hadn't experienced anywhere else in the country. But he was very clear that if we're able to do it right in Chicago, we can take that around the country.
Yeah, he actually literally said in the book, it was quoted in Fire on the Prairie, he said, man, if we could convince the Chicago Negro, we could convince every Negro in America.
Yeah, I mean, I do always like your Roland Martinisms to be able to really capture the essence of what he was getting at. And so when I heard that question, I thought about those very words. And we are convinced in Chicago that we can build safe and affordable communities. And, a militarized forces and an occupation of our city, that is not how you build communities. That is not how you feed and put food in the mouths of people. That's not how we, restore our public education system that works for everyone. That's not how you, drive down unemployment. And so, yes, it's incumbent upon us in this moment to recognize that this is the season that is upon us, that it's our turn, essentially, to do the work for posterity. And, this is the city, of course, that said, keep hope alive, right? Where Reverend Jackson opened up opportunities for mayors to win across this country. It made it possible for us to say, yes, we can. I mean, where Ida B. Wells and her literature and her writings begin to tell the story of how these egregious acts of brutality are harming our brothers and sisters. And so that is the spirit in which I lead with, that those individuals made it possible for a working class, middle child, former public school teacher, and union organizer to be in this position of power. And here's the thing that's actually comforting for me. I know we're not alone, though, Roland. Brandon Scott, the work that he's doing in Baltimore, that's driving violence down in the city of Chicago. Randall Woodfin, Mayor Woodfin in Birmingham, is going to get another term. And the work that he's doing that's very community-focused. And, of course, our two sisters in California, Mayor Barbara Lee and Mayor Karen Bass, to the point that you made earlier. You're seeing Black mayors all over the country invest in our communities, right? And we're seeing the returns of those investments. And I wish I could go, a little bit further, Roland, because today I got a report from my chancellor of our community colleges. And he talked about how enrollment is up in our community colleges. And the number one subgroup that's enrolling in our community colleges are young Black men.
Wow.
Young Black men, right? And you have Latina men who are coming in second. And so people are inspired in this city because we're creating jobs where you have billions of new dollars of investment that's creating hundreds of thousands of construction jobs. We're building affordable homes with a program called the Missing Middle, where we have owner-occupied units that we're building. And this is going to allow generational wealth to be created as we have developers that are building multi-units that they live in and rent to other people to. And the 6 developers that are moving forward with this new program, 5 of them are Black, 3 of them are Black women. These are the investments that people expected me to make when I made a commitment to serve this city. And regardless of what's coming from the federal government, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that our people experience the wholeness of what government has to offer to live vibrant and healthy lives.
Well, I'm very familiar with City College of Chicago. My wife was a vice president at Kennedy King College when we lived there, and my man Wayne when he led it. So I know it very well. Last question for you. You talked about those stats. 2 days ago, you dropped this press release. Go to my iPad, and again. Violent crime overall down 21.6%, homicides down 32.3%, overall shooting incidents down 37.4%, multi-victim shooting incidents 44.6%, robberies 31.9%, vehicular hijack is down 49%, aggravated assault 18.1%. It would be different if the thug-in-chief, because I don't call him president because he's not earned my respect for that title. Matter of fact, when I was in one of those anchor meetings, I couldn't even say the name president because it was just too disrespectful. But that's neither here nor there. It would be different if he came to you or the governor and said, amazing job you're doing. How can we double those numbers? What would you suggest? What do you need from us to actually do this? Instead, what you have is someone who wants to use brute force, who wants to shame, ridicule, trash you, trash the governor, trash Democrats. He's literally said he hates Democrats, but this is somebody who's supposed to represent all people. So it has to be unsettling, especially also to watch a Republican Party that supposedly doesn't like big government, that supposedly loves local control, except when it's Black people leading and when it's Democrats leading.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, when I taught 7th and 8th grade social studies and taught the Constitution, the Bill of Rights makes it very clear about, state autonomy. And this is something that the Republican Party and conservatives has heralded as, quintessential to their value system. And they totally are moving in an opposite direction. And in fact, what he's proposing is the antithesis to what it means to have the type of local control and involvement. We would welcome that conversation, Roland. And one of the things that he could do right away is restore the over $800 million that he, stole from community violence intervention workers, a program that has been successful all over the country. He would restore Medicaid. He would restore SNAP. He would, stop defunding our public schools, right? He would help us build more affordable housing units. And here's the part that's actually really disappointing, is that my police department has collaborated with the federal government to remove guns off the streets of Chicago. Roland, we removed over 150 guns just a couple of weeks ago off the streets of Chicago that had been trafficked in from Mississippi and Indiana. You know what I'm getting at?
Yep.
Right. And so, there's coordination that could be done, but he hasn't expressed any interest in doing that. That's why it's very clear he's not committed to working people. He's not committed to solving the challenges that we're experiencing. And again, presidents used to declare war on poverty. This president has declared war on poor people. But in the city of Chicago, we're going to continue to invest in people. And my vision is to build the safest, most affordable big city in America. And we're doing that in Chicago.
Well, Mayor, we appreciate that. Again, it's great to see those crime numbers down. I lived there. I remember I remember the shootings and the people who were protesting and who were crying and who were the funerals and things along those lines. And the job that you're doing, the job that Mayor Scott is doing in Baltimore should be commended and praised and not be attacked as well. And let me also thank you again. When I did my show last week from Chicago O'Hare Airport,
don't mention it.
I was just trying, no, we good. But but here's the deal. Several of the officers came by and some other United people, and they said, "Man, we watched the show, brother. We appreciate it." And they hung with me until I packed up all my stuff. We all good. So again, I appreciate that. Thank you so very much.
Hey man, look, Chicago. I know you're proud, Houstonite. But man, Chicago loves you. We appreciate the work that you've done here and the work that you're doing for our country. I really do. Mad respect for you, Roland, man. Appreciate you, brother. Love you.
Thanks a bunch. Appreciate it. Take care. Folks, we're going to go to a break. We're going to come back, talk with our panel, and then also coming up at the bottom of the hour, man, I got a brother out of Fulton County. He says, I'm going to go to jail before I let these two crazed election deniers on the elections board. Y'all, it's a lot we got to talk about. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change,
300,000 Black women being pushed out of the workforce.
This is shocking yet unsurprising.
So what happens when a bunch of Black mothers lose their federal job? Their kids are not being fed, their kids are not being taken care of, but that trickles down to the entire community structure, which may be built on the backs of Black mothers and Black women more broadly.
Tune in on The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
Next on The Black Table with me, Greg Carr. We welcome the Black Star Network's very own Roland Martin, who joins us to talk about his new book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. The book explains so much about what we're going through in this country right now, and how, as white people head toward becoming a racial minority, it's going to get, well, let's just say, even more interesting.
We are going to see more violence. We're going to see more vitriol, because as each day passes, it is a nail in that coffin.
The one and only Roland Martin on the next Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Marissa Mitchell, a news anchor at Fox 5 DC.
Hey, what's up? It's Tammy Roman, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Larry, you know, to sit there and listen to Mayor Johnson talk, listen, he has had a hell of a first 2 years. Poll numbers, people under attack, but you cannot deny the success there. The same thing with Mayor Brandon Scott. A lot of people were critical of Mayor Randall Woodford in Birmingham, my alpha brother. Last night, 75% of the vote, he was reelected. These brothers and sisters, he mentioned Barbara Lee in Oakland, mentioned Karen Bass in LA. They are taking on difficult jobs. And I don't think people understand how hard it is to be an elected official, to be a mayor, and you are trying to fix problems that predated you. And what we know, Larry, is that Black elected officials often, when they come in, folk are expecting them to be the savior. And specifically, let's talk about Chicago. I was there. Lori Lightfoot got 4 years. Johnson beat her. You got folks who are abandoning Johnson. But it's amazing how they didn't abandon Richard Daley. It's amazing how he damn near was the mayor 20-some odd years, and they gave him, he signed one of the worst deals ever, where he gave up the parking meter proceeds for damn near 100 years for a short-term cash infusion to fix a problem, and it's called one of the worst deals in American history. But when it comes to Black leadership, we expect them, Larry, to come in as Jesus and to blow breath into these cities that are living Lazarus. But when you have these white leaders, even we give them lots of runway.
Yeah, as you said, Black folks are expected to make, turn water into wine. And it doesn't work that way. And you talk about Chicago, we certainly talk about Baltimore. These are historically large, underserved cities because they're predominantly Black. And we have to talk about that. And you're right, and this is an issue that, Black mayors in particular have dealt with for decades, Roland. But even we talk about, now what's happening, these mayors have turned around violent crime in these cities that, once again, historically have been, underserved. And, credit to the mayor. And I know his poll numbers have been challenging, and you highlighted some of the other issues he's dealt with. But one of the things he has to deal with, not only in terms of, the data clearly shows that violent crime, and some of the other issues are down, is this is a battle against misinformation. it's not about what the data says anymore. This is a fight, multi-platform fight to inform the public, some people who live in your jurisdiction, who you serve and voted for you, and those outside, to counter the narrative that Black folks in cities like Chicago and Baltimore are violent, and historically that's why crime is committed, is because of Black folks, which is racial stereotypes. So, and then on top of that, being a Black mayor had the these, we always say we work twice as hard, these high expectations, despite, once you said, the historical underinvestment in Black communities. In Baltimore City, we have to note that Baltimore is essentially, when it comes to housing discrimination, essentially it was the epicenter of all these, blockbustering, some of these other historical, racist housing policies started in Baltimore City. So we have to really talk about the historical context. We can also talk about, law enforcement violence against Black community, particularly in Chicago. We know a lot about that, and in Baltimore. But once again, is you asking for miracles, and it's two cities we highlighted, Baltimore and Chicago. We've seen these crime numbers 20, 30, 40%, 50%. And it's amazing to see that. They should be getting, we should offer them kudos, and then we should offer more investment to invest in youth programs.
And Zamora, we're asking for miracles in just 2 years for problems that have been entrenched for 20, 30, 40. You heard the mayor say that when it came to opening new mental health areas, first one since Harold Washington, that was almost 40 years ago.
We're looking at how they are still cutting mental health, right? They've cut $310 million in this new bill, this proposed bill that's coming. Youth programs are being cut. Food assistance is being cut. So it's like, on one end, you're saying you're going to over police and add National Guard and add all of this militarized boundaries in place, but you're taking away all the things that Baltimore has proven works. These trauma programs, these youth job programs, building community trust, and you're not giving them the resources they need to be successful. I watch those clips and I'm like, okay, we know this works, but you're trying to say, hey, let's defund research. So even the facts of what we know work, you're trying to take away all of the money that we need to continue to understand and learn how to improve these situations. We can reduce crime. It's very clear. If you add these programs, if you make sure that disabled individuals are getting what they need, youth are getting what they need, these individuals that could be stimulating this community and having something to do, but we keep decreasing we have a 16% cut in youth programs. So all of those things are things that are really important, and we're just overlooking it, ignoring it, and dumping money into things like cleaning up the homeless, and you spending $1 million a day, but you could easily take care of the homeless if you had programs that did these things and you use that money to fund those type of programs.
But what we have in our country, Rebecca, is this, and people, and we just need to go ahead and put it out there. You got people who, I work hard. Look at them lazy bums. Why should we support them? But then over here, oh my God, we will roll out the carpet, offer tax incentives, tax increment financing districts, all sorts of things for billionaire developers. We'll sit here and approve funding for billion-dollar palatial sports stadiums for NFL teams and Major League Baseball and NBA teams, and not bat an eye. And we're talking about multi-billionaires. It goes to show you the psychosis of American voters, elected officials, in terms of how people think. But to me, you cannot complain about problems if you're unwilling to fund the things that can fix the problem.
Well, Roland, let's actually call it what it is. Public policy in America centers whiteness. White people feel safer when there's more police and when there's more guns on the street from having law enforcement. But we know studies and research and the data shows, quantitative data, not just qualitative data, shows that when there's an increase in police, that's actually not good for Black communities. So at some point, we have to stop going by feelings, especially the feelings of white people in this country as a pretext for policy, and actually look at the root cause and figure out things that actually help communities across the country. If this country was interested in reducing crime, reducing poverty, making sure that everyone who is unhoused has housing, making sure that we have proper and adequate education in this country, then they would actually be investing into resources. And the greatest resource in this country is its people. But when you see leadership that has a lack of empathy, when you see leadership that centers whiteness, then we're going to keep having these disparate outcomes, and we're going to keep going the direction that we're going in this country. And one thing that we see is when you have a low-informed electorate, you get people like the orange man in the White House.
Absolutely. Folks, quick break. And when we come back, man, the madness that's happening in Fulton County. Republicans are demanding, literally threatening Fulton County commissioners. They'll put them in jail if they don't put election deniers on the election board. I'm going to talk with one commissioner who says, if I got to go to jail to keep those fools off, it's going to happen. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Coming soon to the Black Star Network.
I have name recognition, but I tour more than any rapper. And it's a lot of overseas stuff. And it's like I'm going all over I've been to 80 countries in my lifetime. And sometimes I'll do interviews with people and they be like, so what you been doing? Like, what you been doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just came back from Belgium and Brazil and South Africa. What you been doing?
Right.
This is Reggie Rock Byford. You're watching
Roland Martin, Unfiltered, Uncut, Unplugged, and Undamn Believable. You hear me?
Republicans in Georgia are demanding that two critics of the 2020 election be appointed to the Fulton County Elections Board. My next guest says, oh, hell no. They're threatening the commissioners with putting them in jail if they don't do it. Marvin Arrington Jr. joins us right now on the show. Glad to have you here. So for people who don't know, what the hell is going on in Fulton County and in Georgia?
Well, Roland, unfortunately, we're seeing the fall of democracy not only at the federal and state level, but now also at the local level in Fulton County. The Fulton County Elections Board is comprised of 5 members, 2 nominations from the Democratic Party, 2 nominations from the Republican Party, and the chair of the election board is nominated by the Fulton County Board of Commissioners. The Republicans have nominated 2 people who are, not only election deniers, but they're actually obstructionists and have no good intentions towards Fulton County government. And so when the motion was made to appoint them, I actually did a substitute motion to file their nominations in order to prevent the Republican Party from bringing those 2 names back. Now, we're not against voting or supporting or appointing Republican Party members, but what has happened is since 2022, the MAGA Republicans have taken over the Fulton County Republican Party. And so what we're dealing with is the MAGA Republicans who are trying to put their people in place and basically do whatever they can to obstruct the elections coming up. And so, they were, my substitute motion passed 5-2 to prevent these 2 names from coming back. They went to a judge and the judge said that we are compelled to vote for them, that Fulton County shall appoint from their nominations. Now, the way I read that is that the Fulton County Board of Commissioners are the only people that can appoint, and that the parties can nominate.
Right. I mean, that's the nomination. That's called a suggestion. That's called a recommendation, but not, oh, you are mandated. Matter of fact, this actually was in the West Wing. There was an episode of the West Wing where Martin Sheen was like, I'm going to consider someone else. It's like, well, you can't do that because historically this is always what happened. The Republicans appoint this person and Democrats appoint this person, and you follow recommendations. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And it became a thing. So this idea that you're compelled, I'm sorry, y'all are elected.
Yeah, no one can tell me how to vote, right? I vote my conscience. I vote my conscience. So the judge cannot tell me to vote for any person or any issue or any item on the agenda.
Just like you can't tell the judge how to rule.
Precisely. And so therein lies the rub, right? The judge is saying that Fulton County has to do it. And typically what happens, the parties nominate someone, just like with a presidential nomination, it needs Senate confirmation. The parties typically don't even nominate someone that they know can't get past the confirmation or that will not be appointed. And so here we are having them again trying to push the limits. And so the judge ordered us to appoint them. We appealed that ruling. And typically there is an automatic stay when you appeal. However, for this injunction, there's no automatic stay. So we had to ask the court to stay the enforcement. The court denied that. We asked the Court of Appeals to stay the enforcement, and they denied the staying of the enforcement pending the outcome of the appeal. And so I assume that we will be back. We will likely file another notice of appeal to today's order. Today's order, Roland, is crazy. The judge ruled today that Fulton County will now have to pay $10,000 a day until we appoint these members. And that, to me, violates my right to vote amongst a whole bunch of other rights.
Right. I mean, it's to me, I don't understand how a judge can say, no, you are compelled to vote for them. I mean, let's just take the United States Senate. The Senate advises and consents. President appoints federal judges, Supreme Court nominees. There's a committee hearing, go through the process. This doesn't say that, oh, well, because the president appoints them, you have to vote for them. Even if it's your own party, you can vote however you want to.
Right. And so the idea that this judge can tell us that we absolutely have to vote for these people is like, I can't comprehend it, right? And, you know, as a commissioner, I have a right to vote yay. I have a right to vote nay. I have a right to abstain. I have a right to not vote at all. At the last meeting on Wednesday the 19th, I was actually in the hospital, so I wasn't even there. So the judge can't even compel us to attend or show up at a meeting, let alone how to vote at that meeting. And so I think the judge's reasoning is flawed. I think the cases that he relies on is flawed because the case that he relies on talks about a Superior Court clerk having to do their job. Well, Superior Court clerks have to accept filings. They have to accept all filings. Their job is mandatory, not discretionary. My job as a commissioner, every vote that I have is discretionary. And so the judge is, I think, invading my right to vote. And I think that's a violation of my constitutional right.
Last question before I go to my panel. This is a county elections board, right?
Yes.
Aren't there other commissions in Fulton County? And don't y'all approve who sits on those commissions and boards?
Yes, we do. They all are a little different. This one is a result of a local law from the state legislature. And so, you know, we're obviously going to have to try to work with our state partners to try to amend this language.
Right, but this is, for people who don't know, again, this is Republicans in the state capitol passing a law specifically for Fulton County to mandate y'all do what they want to do. So in essence, this is the state trying to usurp your power as a county commissioner.
Yes, and we have home rule, and the local laws should take precedence. But, you know, we're just trying to deal with this thing the way it's written. And there is no remedy for what happens if we don't appoint, right? The law is silent on that matter. And so we're going to have to try to work with our local delegation, our Fulton County delegation. But obviously, you know, the Republicans have control of the state house and the state senate.
Actually, last question. Do y'all have to put it on the agenda?
Well, I thought my motion to file would have prevented it from coming back on the agenda. That was my intention, was to not have either of these two names come back. But yes, the Republican Party could nominate two new people, two people that they think could pass. And again, it's not that we don't want to vote for a Republican. I've been on the commission for 11 years now, and I've voted for numerous Republicans to serve on the election board, just not these two.
All right, Commissioner Arrington, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Let me go to my panel here. Rebecca, I'll start with you. This is what people need to understand what's happening all across this country. Republicans, where they control the legislature, this is happening in Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Tennessee, South Carolina, Arkansas. They're passing laws saying, we're going to tell you what to do. Memphis passes a law when it comes to police stops. The Tennessee legislature says, no, forget that. You can't do that. I'm sorry, how do you're telling us? The governor of Tennessee unveils this Elon Musk, whatever the hell it was, thing in Nashville, doesn't invite the state rep who represents Nashville and the airports in there. This is what Republicans are doing. They are using their state power to force local folk to do whatever they want to. And in so many of these places, it's black leadership.
So it's like, Roland, I was thinking the entire time during that segment, I really wanted to ask him, like, who's your counsel? Like, who's your attorney? At this point, it needs to go to appeal because what the lower court judge said doesn't even make sense. But here's the next thing. Okay, so who's going to jail you? Who's going to prosecute you? Because the last time I checked, Fani Willis is still the DA of Fulton County. So if Fani Willis's office says that we will decline to prosecute you, Commissioner, then what happens next? So I hear a whole bunch of, well, these people are saying, but it's a bunch of low literacy people who don't know anything about civic engagement, don't know anything about civics, trying to tell a lot of black leadership what they can and can't do. And so we still have laws here, and the commissioner is not compelled on how to vote. Now, if there's a requirement, hey, you need to show up and you need to vote, now you can argue that whether or not that commissioner actually indeed has to show up and perform their elected duties. But to compel them to vote a certain way, that they can't do that. So I really want to ask, who's your counsel? Who's advising you here? Because just on its face, this is not something that could be done.
But the problem here, Larry, is that because it was a state law, so the conflict here is the Republicans in the legislature passed the law to mandate counties do these things. And so this is the county saying, hey, we think your law, frankly, is unconstitutional. This judge is saying, oh, no, that's the state law. You got to follow it.
Yeah, and, it's always interesting how when it comes to rules and regulations, it varies, right? So if it's about power and control, and we're dealing with black folks, and you want to put them under your boot, then the laws matter. When in the reverse is a case, and it comes to independence and trying to do things to make sure you improve aspects of the community, then it's something that you're not allowed to do. So it's really a contradiction. And as we just heard, this really makes absolutely no sense. How can you mandate that someone votes a specific way? And Roland, I'm glad you highlighted what we see at these Republican legislators throughout the country, including Florida, in terms of forcing Black/Democratic counties, cities, etc., to do exactly what they want to do, which rarely are in the best interest of the constituents in which these leaders, support. We just had the mayor from Chicago on and talking about that. So this is another example of the difference between democracy and power we see in the United States. There's no focus on democracy. This is about power and forcing you to do something for individuals to be, placed in this position of power where they can do things. And we already heard a lot about in terms of the kind of backgrounds and interests these individuals has in terms of their right-wing, ideology is to make you do things that you don't want to do because you know that it's going to cause short and long-term problems. And we know as what's happening here in a year or two, in terms of very important elections in Georgia that can really, once again, go in either direction in terms of whether it is, we have maintained a Democratic seat or you lose a Democratic seat. And Roland, that's really what's going on here. And
this is why, Zabora, I keep telling people why there has to be a fight for these state rep seats to keep the Republicans from being able to have super majorities. Because if they have a super majority, then they can pass these laws. That's the problem in Tennessee. The city of Nashville literally had a civilian review board. The Tennessee legislature outlawed that, saying, oh, no, you can't do that. Last night, that's why this is important, Iowa Democrats flipped a Republican-held state Senate seat, flipped it by 20 points. What does that now mean? The GOP doesn't have a supermajority in the Iowa Senate. Caitlin Dre beat Republican Christopher Proch in a special election for District 1 in western Iowa's Woodbury County. She won 55% of the vote, but Proch is 44%. This is the district that Trump won by 11%. You're talking about a 20-point flip, but this is why the strategy has to change. Zabor, when I talk to people, they talk about, oh, man, we got to take control of the North Carolina this or the Texas. No. The first thing you have to do is you have to pinpoint how many seats do you need to win to first break the supermajority. Then you look at those districts and say, where are the votes? Mobilize and organize to first do that. Then the second wave is after you've broken the supermajority, meaning they have to talk. They need Democrat votes to pass stuff. Then you say, how do we now take control of the House or the Senate? That has to be that's in Texas, same thing. As long as Republicans in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, South Carolina, as long as they have North Carolina, and look, they won the one seat, breaking the supermajority there. As long as they have a supermajority, they can do whatever they want. That has to be the strategy first to break the supermajority of Republicans in these states.
Definitely. We see that they're just doing what they want. When we look at in Texas with Nicole Collier, the representative there, they keep changing the rules, making them different, making people sign permission slips or forcing people to vote. You have all these things going on, and this is when we really have to recognize and make sure we understand that this is voter suppression at its finest. This is what they've been doing. They've saw progress. When you see all of the things that happen with Stacey Abrams in Georgia, and now it's been a fight ever since. You see these things where you see progress and movement, but if we don't organize and understand that breaking these supermajorities is our number one priority right now so that we can have a fighting chance, because they're already doing what they want to do. So if we don't come up with a solution that attacks them right where they're at, and we're doing it strategically, and we're really making sure that we're not allowing these supermajorities to form and to keep forming, and we're not getting people out to vote. It's too many Black people in the South and people of color in the South. If we come together and make sure that we're showing up at the polls, even in midterm elections, even in special elections, we can stop some of these things from happening and from continuing to happen.
Rebecca, big win for voting rights in Pennsylvania. A federal appeals court ruled the state cannot discard mail-in ballots merely because the voter wrote the wrong date or failed to write a date on the return envelope. The judges declared that this practice is unconstitutional as it imposes an unfair burden on voters without effectively preventing fraud. In previous elections, thousands of ballots were rejected due to minor technical errors like these, disproportionately affecting Democrats who are more likely to vote by mail. This is a huge, huge thing here. Now, granted, we know they're going to appeal, Rebecca, but this is one of those ways that Republicans, when they pass these rules, where oh no, you have to have two signatures. You have to have a signature on the outside and then on the inside. Then you must put the date here. They come up with all these different things because it's all designed to shave thousands of votes. That is the goal here. The goal is not to expand access to the ballot. These rules, and this was a Republican rule, it was put in place to stop people from voting so they have a better shot at winning.
Yeah, so in Pennsylvania is one of the jurisdictions that requires two envelopes that you have to use in order to mail your ballot back. The inner envelope is called the secrecy envelope. The outer envelope, you have to sign it, you have to put the date. And what makes Pennsylvania particularly tricky is that it is a commonwealth, meaning that when the Secretary of State says something that deals with voting laws or in the state of Pennsylvania is viewed as an advisory suggestion. It's not binding, but every single county in Pennsylvania gets to determine how they're going to do certain things. So this is such a big deal, and it's a great thing for voters in Pennsylvania because you're literally given the printed envelope, you're given the printed ballot that actually has the actual date. But if you incorrectly put the date when you're filling out that outer envelope, then your ballot was thrown out, and it doesn't even make public policy sense because you understand what election that person is actually trying to vote in because of the nature of the ballot. It literally says it on the ballot. But unfortunately, some of the Republicans in Pennsylvania said, oh no, but if that outer date doesn't match, then we don't know if this actual ballot that we printed with the date on it, if this ballot is meant for this year. That's nonsensical. So the judge in this case made the right call.
Again, this is the stuff that people just don't understand with how the games they play. Former Maui police officers pleaded guilty to violating a man's civil rights. 40-year-old Carlos Freight admitted to repeatedly firing a taser at a man during a January 2024 arrest in Kauai, Hawaii, even though the man was not resisting and posed no threat. The officer had also admitted to falsifying a police report. Boy, it's amazing how that always happens, to try to cover up his actions. He was fired from the Maui Police Department earlier this year after being indicted. As part of a plea deal, prosecutors dropped a second charge of falsifying an official report. He now faces up to 10 years in prison, a $250,000 fine, and supervised release after serving his sentence. He also agreed to pay restitution. The sentencing is scheduled for January 6th. Okay, so this is what pisses me off, Larry. And I have long said this, and then there's some people who are like, oh, I think that's too much. If a police officer falsifies a report, that should be automatic termination. And I hate the fact that prosecutors drop this, because this is what happens. These cops, unless you've got video of the stuff, these cops, they lie on these reports to try to gain a conviction. It is a lie.
Yeah, so and if anybody else writes, tells a lie on a public document, they can end up in jail or fined, etc. But, when you trust someone who has a gun and badge and, commits this kind of crime, and like you said, Roland, lies on an official document, that should be a minimum of grounds for being fired. I think the other point you have made in terms of if there's some kind of civil suit in this, and you talked about this in the past, is that, the officer should be responsible for paying for those fines or fees. So we've got to continue to do a better job to make sure we hold individuals responsible for, except lying for documents, but also in terms of, how you deal with citizens in this case, causing harm to someone using, and I guess he assumed he was justifiable, But I'm glad that he pleaded guilty, and he should spend the time the judge gives him in jail.
Absolutely. And this is, so I'm sitting here, so I'm looking at the story here. All right, so control room, y'all need to let me know because y'all don't put it in here. Okay, was this a state prosecution or was it a federal prosecution? Okay, y'all got to put this stuff. Okay, so this was federal. Here's the problem, Zabor. Trump could pardon him.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already seen this. He wants cops to do whatever he wants. I'm telling you right now, do not be surprised if this cop gets a pardon.
That's just definitely so disheartening. We know that these cops need to be held accountable. We are sending them in areas that are high crime and over policing these, creating a place where we're going to have more crime, or there's going to be more cops that are overusing their force. And we have a president that is going to support cops that have admittedly pled guilty, is saying, hey, I did this, I know I'm wrong. And they're not going to be held accountable because we have a president that is okay with cops and okay with himself doing whatever, ignoring policy, ignoring laws, ignoring the Constitution, and ignoring people's civil rights. We're on them in the most disrespectful manner. So I totally agree with you. He's definitely has the chance to be pardoned. We've watched it happen too many times before.
This is why, Rebecca, these county DAs got to do their job. Donald Trump is going to, if there's a cop that has abused somebody and they get convicted in a federal court, he's going to let them out of jail. Look at that crap they did in Los Angeles, that deputy sheriff, where they said, oh, no. After he was convicted, let's change the sentence. Judge like, what the hell? It was crazy.
You know, Roland, what you're articulating, you could probably do an entire show on. It's like over the last few decades, we've used a federal civil rights framework with making sure that the rights of ordinary Americans, especially people of color, especially Black people, are upheld. But what we're seeing now on the federal level, especially under this type of regime, is they're kind of playing like the Uno reverse card for federal civil rights cases, which means you can't rely on the federal courts because what in turns ends up happening at the Supreme Court level. So now, to your point, we're going to have local DAs, local state people actually enforcing state civil rights laws and you kind of using a different framework because the civil rights community has largely hasn't focused on states' rights, but they focus on the federal framework. And we're just in a different world right now. So if we actually want to have protections for people that isn't overturned by authoritarian leader at the top of federal government, we have to look for other ways of making sure that justice is happening if we actually want justice to happen.
Yeah, you could. I mean, Larry, you can hang up if it's involving a cop. You can hang up the feds doing something.
Yeah, going to the days we had a strong office of civil rights, right, Roland? How many times we talk about Christian Clark and all the work she did in going after individuals in law enforcement or in corrections who committed certain crimes? But that's not going to happen anymore. And as you said, the opposite, those individuals are going to receive pardons. But it's important that we continue to talk about this on your platform because anyone of us or anyone that looks like us can become a victim of this kind of crime at any moment, and we know that. And so we have to make sure those individuals are held accountable. And once again, we need to make sure we force DOJ or talk about having a strong Office of Civil Rights.
And I'm going to say this again, and I'm probably going to end the show every day like this for the foreseeable future. If you are bothered by this is what happens when you don't vote. This is what happens when you don't go to the polls. Because the reality is, if Trump doesn't win, he's not in control of the Department of Justice. So for all these people out there, oh, Kamala was a cop. Oh, I don't like this. I didn't like what she said. Let's just be perfectly clear. All of the mayhem we're seeing, you wouldn't have 350,000 Black women losing their jobs. because you would not have to have the assault on federal workers. If you're angry about these troops being in D.C. and they're threatening to send them to New York or Chicago, that's what happens when you don't vote. If you're upset seeing these cops go free on federal charges, that's what happens when you don't vote. If you're pissed off with the billions of dollars in grants being cut, that's what happens when you don't vote. Oh, if you're upset about the $800 million in the crime prevention grants that Donald Trump cut, this is what happens when you don't vote. If you're upset that the Supreme Court said Trump could whack almost $1 billion in grants related to DEI, dealing with diversity and health, this is what happens when you don't vote. I can go on and on and on and on and on, but it's very simple. If the thug in chief had not won, and if more black people and more Latino people and more conscious white people had been awake and voted for Vice President Kamala Harris, we would not be having any of these conversations. And for the people out there who black and you wanted a perfect candidate and, oh, Kamala wasn't black enough, is Trump white enough? For all of y'all who were saying, oh, man, she a cop, she locked up black men, which is a lie. It's been proven lie. It's amazing how silent y'all are when a black man is a lawyer, is a U.S. Army veteran, West Point graduate, is walking down the street in D.C. and gets accosted by 20 local and federal authorities. When Trump literally stands up and says, I'm the chief law enforcement officer of the country. Y'all ain't calling him top cop. Oh, I love all the people who sit here. Oh, she ain't really black, she Indian. Well, who he hooking up? But y'all do notice, how quiet all those folks are. I mean, it is stunning how they just evaporated into thin air. Then again, you have the people out there, you know, the loud people who said Kamala and Trump are the same, Republicans and Democrats are the same, you ain't getting nothing for your vote. Remember when a certain person said that? Ain't he about to lose his school buildings because he didn't pay a tax bill? Oh, by the way, you know if you don't pay your tax bill, you could try to go to politicians to get relief to help you out. Oh, I'm sorry, that's right. You didn't believe in voting. Thoughts and prayers.
Roland, you got to say it 3 times in a row so yes. So he'll understand what you said. You got to say 3 times, yes. Otherwise it don't mean anything.
Yes, thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers.
Now it makes it real.
Ain't that something? And yes, I'm petty. Sabora, thanks a lot. Larry, appreciate it. Rebecca, appreciate it. And folks, unlike others who don't build schools, if you give to us via Cash App, we've actually built a network. So support Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. You actually have seen the fruits of our labor. You've seen what happens when you invest in this show, because we'll be 7 years old on September 4th. The network will be 4 years old on September 4th. You've seen multiple shows on the Black Star Network. So when you give via Cash App and PayPal and Zelle and Venmo, and all those platforms, and you send checks and money orders, I built it in 7 years. Unlike some people who haven't built anything in 10 years. Folks, Cash App. Use the Stripe QR code. You see it right in front of you. Here's the QR code right here. Click the Cash App. First of all, click the Cash App button to contribute. If you want to send a check and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037, 0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo RM Unfiltered. Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app. That's right, which y'all helped pay for, and we actually launched. It's amazing what happens when you ask for donations and you actually do what you say you're going to do. iPhone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Get our Black Star Network, Roland Martin Unfiltered swag by going to shopblackstarnetwork.com. We got t-shirts and hoodies, mugs, we got leggings, we got all kind of stuff. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com or point your phone to the QR code right there. Hey, to my right, all these black-owned products from companies, skincare products. We got toilet paper, man. We got barbecue sauce. We got other sauces. Man, we got desserts. We got popcorn. We got shirts. All kind of stuff. Go to our marketplace at shopblackstarnetwork.com. You can see all of these items right here at the marketplace at shopblackstarnetwork.com. Let's support these black-owned businesses. They're doing a great job. And so, again, the resources are all right here. Don't forget, folks, if you want to get the Fanbase app, download Fanbase. Get the app. And if you want to invest, go to startengine.com/fanbase for more information. We also have been airing the Fanbase podcast. So you can also go to our YouTube channel, the Black Star Network app. Check that out as well. And remember what I said, if you want to get that shirt, man, people were stopping me in the airport in Atlanta today. I was coming back from the Chris Tucker Golf Tournament, and folks really were like, man, I love that shirt. Here in D.C., in Atlanta, everywhere I go, they love the shirt, and so you can get this here. Don't blame me, I voted for the black woman. And y'all get the shirt, do me a favor, post it on social media, tag me, or email it to me, and I'll show it on the air, those of you who have bought this shirt. So we'd love to show all of you. Y'all, that's it. I hope y'all have a great day. Hey, what we got? What interview's coming up next? Who we got? All right, y'all, Talib Kweli, his interview is coming up next, so don't go anywhere. I'll see y'all tomorrow.